Darkness, silence, the weight of the ocean pressing down from every direction. Imagine waking up to find yourself trapped 100 feet underwater, alone. No food, no fresh air, and no one coming to save you. For most, this would be the end, but for Harrison O'Keefe, it was just the beginning of the most impossible survival story ever recorded. And before you say, "Oh, I could never survive that," May 26th, 2013. Off the coast of Nigeria, a tugboat named the Jaskin 4 was on a routine mission. On board, 12 crew members, including Harrison O'Keefe, a cook who had woken up early to start breakfast. Then, without warning, the ocean erupted. A massive wave slammed into the ship's hull, flipping it upside down in seconds. Water surged in like a flood, swallowing everything in its path. Harrison ran, but before he could reach the deck, the ship was gone. Now, here's a question. If you were trapped in total darkness, upside down in a sinking ship, what's the first thing you'd do? Panic? Pray? Or accept your fate? As the ship plunged 100 feet to the ocean floor, Harrison was tossed into a tiny air pocket in a bathroom, a space no bigger than a closet, and it would become both his prison and his only hope. For the first few hours, he screamed for help, but there was no response, just the endless, deafening silence of the deep. And then the worst realization of all, he wasn't alone. The bodies of his crewmates floated past him in the dark. Lifeless, Harrison had somehow survived, but he was the only one. Now, let's be real. Most of us freak out when we lose Wi-Fi for 5 minutes. Imagine being trapped for 3 days with nothing but pitch-black water and the sound of your own breathing. By day 3, Harrison was hallucinating. His oxygen was running out. His body was shutting down. But just when hope seemed lost, a miracle happened. A flicker of light, a diver's flashlight. Rescuers had finally arrived, but they weren't expecting a survivor. They were there to collect bodies. So when Harrison reached out his hand and grabbed one of the divers, they nearly jumped out of their suits. Now, imagine being that diver, casually doing your job, and suddenly a dead man grabs your arm. I'd be filing for early retirement. Against all odds, Harrison was brought to the surface, suffering from dehydration and shock, but alive. After 60 hours in total darkness, he had done the impossible. He had cheated death at the bottom of the ocean. So, what kept Harrison alive? Was it luck, faith, or the sheer will to survive? His story is proof that the human spirit is far stronger than we realize, that even in the darkest depths, literally, hope can still exist. And maybe, just maybe, we're all capable of more than we think. So next time you face an impossible challenge, ask yourself, what would Harrison do? If you found this story mind-blowing, wait until you hear about the man who cheated death 7 times. To watch the unbelievable survival story that defies all logic. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Do you believe in luck or fate? Imagine this. You're hit by not 1, not 2, but 7 life-threatening disasters. Most people would never make it past the first. So, what does it take to survive that many? Is it sheer luck? Or is there something else at play? Meet Frene Selak, the man who holds the title of the luckiest unlucky person ever. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll either think he's cursed, or you'll be questioning the very nature of fate itself. Now grab a seat, because this is going to be one heck of a ride. Disaster 1, the train crash. Let's begin with the first disaster, a train crash that could have ended Frene's life before he even got a chance to prove how unlucky he really was. Picture this. It's 1962 and Frani's on a crowded train speeding through the mountains of Yugoslavia. Suddenly, Disaster strikes. The train derails. Franny is thrown out of the train, which then plunges into the valley below. Everyone else on board, dead. But somehow Freynes survives, without a scratch. And here's the weirdest part. He didn't even make a big deal about it. He didn't rush to the news. No. Frane just brushed it off like it was another day at the office. But remember, this was just the beginning. If you think surviving one life or death situation is insane, just wait until you hear about the other 6. Disaster 2, a plane crash. Now let's fast forward a few years. 1970. Franny's on a plane heading for a trip in Croatia. Suddenly something goes horribly wrong. The plane begins to malfunction, spiraling down toward the ground. You'd think there's no way someone survives that, right? But not Frane. The plane crashes, but somehow he's ejected from the plane in the process, landing safely 300 feet away. The rest of the passengers gone, but Frane, he walks away with nothing but a few scratches. Hold on a second. Could this really be luck, or is there something more here? You've got to wonder, how does someone survive not one, but 2 horrific disasters? Keep watching, because this story is only getting crazier. Disaster 3, the bus accident. But we're not done yet. In 1973, Frane decides to take a bus ride, hoping to get a little peace of mind. But disaster strikes. Yet again, his bus flips over, plunging into a river. Most people would be trapped or drowned, but not Frane. He manages to escape without so much as a broken bone. In fact, Frane is almost unfazed by it all. Now we're starting to get into, is this guy just extremely lucky or cursed territory? I mean, 3 major accidents in just over a decade. What do you think? Is he really that lucky? Or is there something strange going on here? Disaster 4, the car crash. And just when you think it can't get worse, here comes Disaster 4. In 1995, Frane gets into a car accident. Again, this time a car swerves out of control and crashes right into him. The result, a fiery explosion, but somehow Frane walks away from the wreckage. What's his secret? Is it his reflexes, or does he have some sort of cosmic luck? Either way, after this 4th disaster, you have to start asking yourself, could he really be this unlucky to face such disasters? Or are we witnessing something different? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Franny still has a few more brushes with death to survive. Keep watching. Disaster 5, 6, and 7, the motorcycle, and more. In 1996, he's riding a motorcycle when he's hit by a car. No, you're not hearing things. He gets knocked off the motorcycle, but somehow survives. Then, Disaster 6, he's struck by lightning. Just when you think his luck has run out, he gets hit again, this time by a flying object. And incredibly, Frane lives through all of it. At this point, you can't help but think, is this guy just the luckiest unlucky person ever? Or is there a hidden force at work here? Would Frane's life be a sign that fate can only push someone so far before something miraculous happens? Final twist, Frane's reward for surviving. Imagine this. It's 3 a.m. The world is asleep, but you're awake, alone. Every shadow stretches longer. Every creak echoes louder. And somewhere, something is watching. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on the real horrors faced by those who work when the sun goes dark. These are not campfire tales. These are true stories from night shift workers who survived the unthinkable. Strap in. By sunrise, you'll never see the dark the same way again. Night shifts aren't just about caffeine and loneliness. They're a battleground. A realm where logic falters and primal fear takes over. Stories so visceral they'll haunt your commute home. Let's begin. Sarah, a 28-year-old nurse, thought she'd seen it all, until her shift in the pediatric ward. Children's laughter at 2 a.m., but every bed was empty. Then the monitors, blaring, code blue. She sprinted to room 214 and froze. The door was locked from the inside, and through the glass a pale face stared back. A child who'd died there decades prior. Sarah's story isn't unique. Hospitals are ground zero for the supernatural. Why? Because death here doesn't always leave. Jake, A 24-year-old security guard swore his job was easy money until his first solo shift. The motion sensors triggered in Section D, but the cameras showed nothing. Then, footsteps, heavy, deliberate. Behind him, he spun, empty, until the voice, "You shouldn't be here." Later, police found claw marks on the walls. And Jake? He quit that night, but here's the twist. 6 guards before him vanished without a trace. Marcus, hauling cargo through Nevada's desert, picked up a hitchhiker. Pale, silent. 2 hours in, the man rasped, "Stop the truck, now!" Marcus refused until he glanced at his GPS. It read, "No signal for 200 miles." The hitchhiker? Gone. But on the passenger seat, a Polaroid from 1978. A corpse. His face. This stretch of road? It's claimed 37 drivers, all found, smiling. Fear isn't weakness, it's a signal. A reminder that even in the darkest hours we persist. These workers didn't just survive. They reclaimed the night. So next time you're alone in the quiet hours, remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. And if these stories teach us anything, the night shift isn't for the faint of heart, but it's where heroes are forged. If these tales chilled or inspired, you smash that like button. Share this video with someone who dares to face the dark, and subscribe, because the night is vast, and we've only scratched the surface. Stay brave, stay curious, and remember, whatever lurks in the shadows, you're the light.